So as I said, both of them are multiple choice questions, but you can see that in the first question, it is a single answer that you need to choose. You've got 3 options. 1 is correct and 2 are incorrect. Whereas in questions 4 to 6, you have to choose 3 letters from A to G. Which 3 things does Cynthia recommend you buy to get started? So it's going to be 3 of these things, which means that 4 of these things will not be recommended. So we have to listen really carefully here, because with this being the IELTS exam, we can expect that these items maybe will be mentioned, but they will not necessarily be recommended. And that is the key. What does she recommend? So it's not just which 3 things does she mention, but which 3 things does she recommend you buy to get started. So make sure that you do use your time before listening to be really clear about the question. And that's particularly crucial for questions 4 to 6. If we go back to question 3, where does the term whitewater canoeing come from? Forward. And we look at the options. So a type of river that is chosen, is that where it comes from? Does it come from the effect of the paddles on the water? Or does it come from the speed at which the boat travels? So 3 separate options here. We have to listen carefully to decide which one is correct. So for those of you who have listened, feel free to share what you think the correct answer is. Is it A, B, or C? And hello to those who've just joined the class. Hello to Sonny. Hello to Alice and Bert. Thanks for saying hi. And let's listen then. So we'll listen to each track separately. This is going to be the first time in this class that I've shared audio. So if there's any issues in hearing the audio, please let me know. Hopefully there won't be. So let's listen to the first track.
Track 14.
Okay, so this is going to be to answer question 3. So is it A, B, or C?
Track 14. A lot of people may be familiar with what I call recreational canoeing. That's where you take a canoe out onto a nice calm river with a picnic and have a relaxing time. But if you're doing whitewater canoeing, then you're doing something very different. Whitewater canoeing actually gets its name from the fact that when you do it, you've got to be paddling very rapidly through the water. And when you're doing that, you make a lot of froth and bubbles, and the water looks white.
Okay, so we've got our answer then to the first question. Anyone feel brave? Anyone want to suggest which option is correct? A, B, or C? The type of river, the effect of the paddles on the water, or the speed at which the boat travels? Where does the term whitewater canoeing come from? What do we think? Any suggestions? I hope you could all hear the audio clearly there. Okay, well, the answer is, in fact, B. Okay, it is B, and we can hear the specific words she uses to indicate that it's B. And let's just go and check on that. So we want to be really clear about this. We need the details. So let's just listen to the specific words.
Canoeing actually gets its name from the fact that when you do it, you've got to be paddling very rapidly through the water. And when you're doing that, you make a lot of froth and bubbles, and the water looks white.
Okay, so can we hear that? So she mentions that it gets its name from. So where does the term whitewater canoeing come from? She says it gets its name from. So name is being paraphrased for term. The way that when you're paddling on the water, she says it generates a lot of froth, and so the water turns white. Okay, so instead of using the word paddle, she talks about paddling on the water, and the froth is the effect that the paddling has. So hopefully you got that one correct. That was the first question. So now we're going to move on to listen to the answers to questions 4 to 6. And this is tricky because we have to get 3 answers very quickly. Okay, so the audio is not clear, I'm hearing. Let me make it as loud as possible. Let me play it from the beginning. As I said, it's the first time I've shared audio in this group, so just tell me if you can hear the audio clearly now. I'll play it from the beginning. And on this occasion, we want to try and get the answers to questions 4 to 6.
Track 40. A lot of people may be familiar with what I call recreational canoeing. That's where you take a canoe out onto a nice calm river with a picnic and have a relaxing time. But if you're doing whitewater canoeing, then you're doing something very different. Whitewater canoeing actually gets its name from the fact that when you do it, you've got to be paddling very rapidly through the water. And when you're doing that, you make a lot of froth and bubbles, and the water looks white.
So could you hear that more clearly? Please let me know in the chat if you were able to hear that clearly. Perfect. Thank you, Alice. Yeah, I'm glad that you could hear that clearly. So I'm going to continue the audio then to answer the next 3 questions. Now, the key here is to listen out for possible paraphrasing, okay, for the options in questions 4 to 6.
First of all, you will need to think about equipment. You'll need to get yourself a good canoe, and these can set you back anything from £500 to £1,500, depending on the material they're made of.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it. So she says there, a good canoe. So we can eliminate this one. We don't want a low budget canoe. A low budget canoe would be cheap. She gives us a price, £500 to £1,500. So we can eliminate one of these options. And this is an important technique because if we can eliminate options, then there are fewer options that we have to choose from. We'll continue.
Personally, I wouldn't go for a cheap one, although obviously this depends on your budget. And to protect yourself against rocks when you fall out of the canoe. And believe me, you will fall out. You'll need a good quality helmet. It needs...
Okay, so we've got an answer here. She says, just at the end, a good quality helmet. A helmet is an example of headgear. We can actually see it in the picture. Yeah, the helmet is what she's wearing on her head. And so B, we've got the answer here. So now we've got 2 more that we need to listen for.
to meet certain government standards, so make sure you go to a reputable supplier. And there's no point, particularly as a beginner, in wearing anything but a wetsuit. That's a must. I'd recommend one with short sleeves rather than long sleeves. Then you'll have...
Okay, so we've got another one here. She says a wetsuit, and then she says, I recommend one with short sleeves. So using one in this case refers back to the wetsuit. And she uses that word, and then later on talks about it being short sleeved. So we've got 2 now, 1 more to get.
To get a life jacket too, and I would also suggest that you get yourself a pair of river shoes. These are made out of the same material as the wetsuit. Some people think that ordinary rubber boots will do, but they're much too loose and fill up with water. It is also essential to wear something to protect...
Okay, so we've got another one that we can eliminate here. She actually says rubber boots, they are much too loose, they fill up with water, so they would not be appropriate. So that's another one we can eliminate.
Protect your hands from the paddles and stop them from being rubbed.
Okay, something to protect your hands from the paddles, to stop them being rubbed. Well, that would be gloves, wouldn't it? Gloves protect your hands, and so that would be the final option. So those are the 3 that we should have gone for. You can see we've had to recognize that different words can be used to refer to the options. And that was the case with certainly the final option there, referring to gloves. So if you made any mistakes there, do listen again and do check. These materials are available in the Facebook group as well. I'm glad that the audio was clear towards the end just there. And if you did get those correct, then congratulations. keep practicing, and I will see you again very soon for our class on Thursday. Until then, take care.